Welcome back. We're visiting with Barb Walsh, and the information you're providing is just stunning. It really is. And I know people watching today, unless they have been personally touched by this, probably don't know very little about it. Now, because of your daughter's death and the response from people you would think would be there to investigate and provide you with information, you created a network for individuals who may be going through this. You want to, first of all, tell us what it's all about?
On the 1-year anniversary of Sophia's death, I took all of the information that I had tapped into trying to understand what killed her and what fentanyl was and what's happening in North Carolina, the laws, all the links. Worked with my husband, and he created a website so that when someone is awake at 3 in the morning, like we were, trying to understand what happened to our child, that they would find this website. It's called Fentanyl Victims Network of North Carolina.org or fentvic.org for short.
Okay.
They can go on there and see other fentanyl victims who have died in all 100 counties. And these are families who have chosen to share their child's picture and their story so that you can find someone to heal with who understands. What I have found is nobody truly understands my pain unless it's somebody else who has experienced the same thing. They've lost a child. So together, I have found these families, and we have found ways to get law passed. We are working to get naloxone in schools. Naloxone is the antidote to fentanyl, and it is administered in this little adapter. One spray up the nose can save a life, because you can die within 2 minutes if you ingest fentanyl and you don't know it. Students are at risk. We don't know what's in their home environment. We don't know what they might bring into school. So this costs about $20, and it saves a life, and we should have 4 doses in every school. And Wake County schools agreed to change their health policy to include naloxone because I shared Sophia's story.
That's congratulations. That's wonderful news.
And that's what we're encouraging other families to do in all 100 counties of North Carolina. And we now have 27 school districts that approved naloxone to save a student's life. And we're working on the other counties.
I want to ask for the folks who are watching, how easy is it to get fentanyl? I mean, especially for a young person, you're mentioning school and a potential life-saving medication.
So fentanyl can, in today's world, a young person may feel like they have a problem that they want to solve. They may have some anxiety. And rather than tell their mom and dad and go to a medical professional and say, I have anxiety, they are able to go on Snapchat and order a Xanax because they heard Xanax is good for anxiety. Well, unbeknownst to them, somebody has taken a pill press and made a pill to look like a Xanax, which contains particles of undisclosed fentanyl. And that Xanax pill, they pay for it online, that gets delivered right to their home, like pizza, and they take that pill and they end up dead. That is how easy it is to get fentanyl. Now, it's showing up in counterfeit Percocet pills, Adderall pills, Xanax pills, and it's showing up in recreational drugs like cocaine. Remember, you can't see it, you really can't see it in a powder.
No.
And it's not colored, and it doesn't have an odor. So there are even some places on the West Coast that are using fentanyl eye drops. So it's very dangerous. Fentanyl does not discriminate on how old you are, how young you are, how rich you are, it doesn't care. And that's why we think students who are relying on adults to protect them, especially in a school environment, should be safe in their schools.
Well, adults, moms and dads, are also relying on a system to bring justice when something like this happens, and it seems as though that hasn't been happening. So if we go to your website, do you have resources, things, or information anyway? Where do you begin if you've gone through it? So for folks who are watching today, and I hope you never have to go through it,
right.
Where do you start? What's your first step?
So on the website, there's a series of tabs at the top. There's a how-to section. And you click on the how-to section. It's how to collect evidence. What evidence do you need to be looking for in this type of environment? How do you order a toxicology report? How do you get in touch with the police and ask for a police report? It just goes through item by item. There's like 27 items. Also, how to start a nonprofit. Tells you how to do that. Because the more nonprofits we get focused on this, the better, the safer our state is going to be. Then you have resources. And the resources section, we have a toolkit, which has a community presentation on fentanyl. What is it? How do you save yourself? What is naloxone? What's going on with the schools? We have what legislation we have in North Carolina with copies of the legislation. We have a county by county spreadsheet on how many people have died in that county and how many have been prosecuted. So it is all, depends on what you're looking for. We think we have it covered, but if it's not there, they can just call me.
Now, you've only been doing this a year?
2 years.
2 years. So you've already gotten that in some of the schools, districts in North Carolina. How are you feeling about the direction we're going? Are you hopeful that we're going to get a handle on this? Because right now it seems as though the system is completely broken down and not really providing the expectations that we have.
Well,
I mean, what's the response been from?
the response from the families is, thank goodness I found you.
Right.
And
What's the response been from politicians, for instance?
the
that you-
politicians are fine. They
law enforcement, DAs.
and they're at first they're like, who are you? What are you
Yes,
doing?
yes.
And are you legitimate?
Right.
Because they're not used to someone coming in educated with the stats. And nobody knew how many people died in Watauga County before fentanyl, and now we do. And the law enforcement's like, uh-oh, you know,
They didn't know it either, did they?
they did.
No.
So the biggest thing that we're seeing is a reduction in fentanyl fatalities this year in 2024. And I believe it's because we're distributing naloxone. We have an antidote that's available without a prescription. So it's no longer just the harm reduction organizations sharing this with people who are at risk. I am distributing to families who are not at risk. They just happen to have a kid in their house. And
Yeah.
anybody under the age of 25 with a cell phone is at risk. So they all should have naloxone, just like we have fire extinguishers in our kitchen. Not because we're gonna have a fire, but just in case. That's why we need to have naloxone.
Wow, a lot of information, and I thank you so much for what you're doing. And again, my condolences. I wish you didn't have to go through this, but the fact that you're doing it, or you're saving some lives, I hope that gives you
Yes.
some peace on that.
That's the goal.
We're coming back. You're going to meet two moms who've gone through the same thing and get their thoughts when we come back.